Welcome to another exciting episode of Home Sweet Home. Hello, everyone. My name is Rod McCall.
And I'm Bryce Runge.
We're glad to have you back today. Sorry I cut you off. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, that was okay. I'm used to it by now.
All right. Well, today we're going to make a minor shift. Bryce has a new book that has come out, available beginning June 25th on Amazon. Am I right on that?
Amazon. It will be live on Amazon. It's going to drop June 25th.
All right. Well, given that this podcast will come out after June 25th, we're in good shape.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, the title of the book is Wake Up, Wake Up, Wake Up.
Yes.
Can you
got it.
Well, tell us a little bit, or explain this to me, because, I haven't seen a copy of it.
Right.
So what is this? What is this new book? Tell me about it.
A little different title, right? Wake up, wake up, wake up. But just to give you a little background story on this, I would believe it was 4 years ago now when I was a coach. I was coaching, and I had one of my fellow coaches come outside before all this. As the kids as athletes were coming into the building, we stand outside and greet them. We're like, "What's up? Let's get them pumped up," or whatever. Yeah. And I have been known to be the energy guy.
Really, you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Say it ain't so.
Yeah. And so one of the coaches comes out and he's like, "Hey, man, we need you inside." I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "We need your energy. We need you to pump. We need you to light a fire, basically." I'm like, the kid's acting up. He's like, "It's not the kids." I'm like, "What?" He said, "It's the coaches." And I'm like, "Oh, man." And so I knew there was a little bit of turmoil going on. And really that inspired what I called the Wednesday wake-up call.
Okay.
It happened to be Wednesday. And it was, I started writing. And the first article was about gratitude. And I wrote on gratitude based off of where I had come from, and to be grateful for all that I have.
Okay.
And so that's what inspired that first message. And I printed them out and I left a copy on each of their desks.
Okay.
And there was some other, nuggets of wisdom in there. And there was, the pump you up, whatever. But it was really centered on gratitude. And it was funny because things did shift throughout that day.
Okay. What do you mean?
There was a little more positivity in the air. The environment wasn't so toxic, if you will. And so I'm like, okay, it was received well, and it wasn't poorly written. Obviously, I'm not a fantastic writer, but over the years I've gotten obviously, better based off writing, but I had grammatical errors and whatnot, but a lot of people don't see that because they actually saw the message. They just didn't focus on, well, he misspelled where wrong, or you are right. But it was received really well. And that following Wednesday, I did another one, but I did it through an email.
Okay.
And then I had already, I think I had established a website at that point. And then I was able to put the blog in, the information through my website. People could go in there and then sign up for my Wednesday wake-up calls. So that grew and grew and grew. And then I'm like, hey, you're doing something pretty good here, right? Mm-hmm. Again, going back to the last episode that we talked about was taking a risk, right?
Yeah.
I'm not worried about failing. I'm focused on helping people. That was my why. How can I encourage people? How can I uplift people? How can I motivate people to reach their dream? How can I empower people to overcome obstacles? Right. Okay. And so that's been the why. And so I just kept going and there was about, I don't know, several months where I'm like, I'm going to take a break, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
And then, getting remarried, and Suzanne became my editor, and she would, what you call it, put the lipstick on, the messages. And that was huge. And she saw my vision for what I wanted to do and what I was doing. And she was a person who came in and strengthened, that whole, the message and what I wanted to do. And so I just kept going and going. And then I took some time off because it's a lot. I think I got writer's block is what they call it.
Yeah.
And just, life has been happening.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my goals has been to write a book.
Okay.
And it wasn't necessarily, I think originally I had something different in mind. It wasn't maybe a few months ago. I'm like, I'm writing a book. I'm going to turn the messages that I've used, I'm going to update them. I'm going to, bring them up to speed, if you will. And I have new content written, and I'm going to turn it into a book. And I said, well, how could I turn this into a book? And so then it came to me about turning the Wake Up Call into a devotional. So it actually turned out to be a 40-day devotional.
Okay.
And so that, it just kind of fell into place.
Okay. Let's pretend that I do not know what a devotional is.
So devotionals are, they're short messages that an individual, it's a book, and it's a short message that an individual can read, typically in the morning. It doesn't matter really when you read it. But that's something I encourage people to do in my book, when to read it, first thing in the morning. But it's just,
why? I'm busy in the morning.
Right. But,
I got my video games to play.
I know you do. Well, and I say this in there, how often, if you get up before everyone else, how often is your phone ringing? Or your messages? Are you getting text messages at 5 or 6 in the morning? Is someone knocking on your door? Are the kids running around like complete maniacs? No, they're not. So that's why I encourage to start your day with this message.
Okay.
Because that dictates the rest of your day. That's what I believe. And
so
it's a devotional to help you, throughout that day, I guess, if you will, your life.
Okay, so maybe help me start out on the right foot.
Help you start out on the right foot. Yeah.
Okay. And can you give it okay. Again, I've been a recipient of your wake up calls. And I've read them, I've gotten their emails, and I've really enjoyed them. They really do. I won't say it's the first thing I see in the morning, but it is one of the top things. Well, shoot, some of those emails didn't come in till after 7. By that time, I'm already in my classroom. But I will say that taking the time to read them, I really enjoyed the way that you incorporated some life experience, and you threw in a little Bible.
Right. Yeah, and that's really my relationship with God is really taken off over the last 7-8 years, where he was non-existent the first 30 plus years of my life.
Okay.
That really is the inspiration and the driving force behind this whole entire wake up call. Not necessarily that I feel like I'm behind a pulpit.
Okay.
But like you said, I'm using my life stories that directly tie to what Scripture says and how that translates. Mm-hmm. And so I'm using what was all a mess. You've probably heard this before. My mess is now turned into a message, right? So I'm using my stories backed by biblical truth to help people develop their thought life. Help them overcome, the anger and the bitterness, the things that we've talked about, right? And that's why I think that my book, somewhat ties into the vision and mission we have for this podcast.
Okay. Well, yeah, okay, I can see that because, again, what do we want to do? We want to try and find a way to make life more enjoyable.
Right.
I mean, life's going to... not to pull more religion, but to quote the Buddha, life sucks, rule number one.
Right.
And rule number two, life sucks because we want things. I find that, when I am most frustrated with life, it's because I want things that I'm not getting.
Right.
And so the idea that if we can find ways to get what we want, and maybe not necessarily the materialistic things, but the other aspects of our life that we can have more direct control over, like as my wife Sherry says all the time, it's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to what happens to you that is key. And so, I like that idea that, find a way to start your day off on a positive note, because there's too many ways, that you get out of bed, you're half asleep, you jam your baby toe into the side of the bed or the dresser, and that's how your day begins.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I encourage people, in the book, I give you like instructions on how to read this. Not that I'm saying people don't know how to read. I'm encouraging people to start your day. Like you said, start your day with this. I've had numerous amounts of responses to my wake up calls. You've been part of that, and that encourages me to continue writing. First of all, and then I'm like, man, like, okay, people are reading this. Yeah, I often wonder, are people even reading this? Then you get this influx of emails about how their day changed because of it. Or their life has been transformed over the last 4 years. Not per se like because I'm the direct, influencer. I think I've helped shape people, But yeah, I encourage people to start the day with this, and it could be 15 minutes. It's not asking a whole heck of a lot.
No.
But again, we could be distracted or we could put up excuses. But anyways, going back to I encourage people to start in the morning, 15, 20 minutes, grow from there, read a short message, that's like short but powerful. And then there's 2, 3, maybe 4, follow-up critical thinking questions. And I think that those questions, that's what gets people to develop their thought life, and that's what changes the direction of their day.
I'm glad you mentioned those questions, because the ones that have hit me most square between the eyes have been some of those questions that got me thinking about, where is my mind? Where is my attitude?
Right.
And sometimes, I guess for me, the ones that have been the most impactful have been when my mood or attitude has not been where it needs to be. Right. In addressing the question of why am I doing what I'm doing.
Right.
And so I'm glad that you've done this. You've put those into a book, because as I listened to you explain it, it sounds almost like a user guide, right, or a user manual.
Sure.
Only instead of how to use or fix something, it's how to make your day a little bit brighter, a little bit happier.
Right. And so with what we're doing on this podcast, right, trying to help people create thriving relationships, helping people create that home sweet home. We as individuals have to, like our last episode, design.
Okay.
We have to we have to create a certain way of living, life by design, if you will.
Right.
Not by default. And I think through these messages help you, like you said, your thought life, help you cultivate a different attitude, right? And I say this all the time, cultivate an attitude of gratitude. help you develop a growth mindset, right? So if you personally do this and you grow personally, then you're positively impacting those people around you.
Okay. Because, I will say from a lot of my experiences, I've had some really good experiences, but I've had some really, just flat out crappy experiences as well.
Right.
And sometimes, I find that those crappy experiences can be, whether they're small or large, can bring me down.
Right.
And they can get me in a rut. And being able to, and it's always interesting where some kind of, I don't want to say inspiration, but a message arrives to you,
Right.
that can help readjust,
Right.
and help you find, well, as you say, gratitude. That's about as good a word as I can come up with at the moment. That helps you go, you know what? Okay, that was a crappy thing.
Right.
And maybe, these things that are happening are somewhat related to your frame of mind.
Right.
If you expect bad things to happen, bad things are going to happen.
Exactly.
But if you start thinking, more positively, if you start thinking, good things might happen, then maybe more good things will happen.
Right. Developing that optimistic mindset. But, I said this in the last episode, and you stop focusing on all the things that could possibly go wrong. Start being optimistic at all that could go right.
As you say that, I got thinking, I think I need to read this every day in the morning before I leave the house to go to school.
That's what I recommend.
Because, that might make my 35-minute commute to school less aggravating.
Yeah. I find myself going back and reading my own messages.
Yeah?
Just because I'm not perfect and because I struggle.
You're not perfect?
No. I'm almost, but not.
Because you remind me of Mary Poppins, nearly perfect in every way.
No, I have to go back into my own messages sometimes and reread the things that I write to kind of bring myself, I don't know, back. Specifically after this last year that we've all had, right?
Oh, God bless COVID.
And I don't want to bring it up because I know it's a sore subject for a lot of people, and it's rightfully so. But that could. I think the book has the potential to really transform people's lives. Honestly,
Yeah.
Honestly, and you've said a few things, and I know we've made light of it, but again, waking up. That's the whole point, the purpose of it. Wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Wake up to a new way of living. Wake up to a new way of seeing things, a new perspective. Wake up and be empowered to overcome those obstacles. We talked about last episode about the past.
Yeah.
Right? Not tripping on what's behind us. Right? Moving forward in a more abundant, life, and that's what this book talks about specifically. And I share different stories, not just about my life and the challenges that I've overcome, but stories about my parents.
Yeah.
Right. And then stories about I tie in movies. A blip about a movie, or a song. Don't worry, be happy. Right? You remember the song. It was in the 80s. You were old then. I was just born. No. But it's not boring content, man. It'll keep you on your toes. It'll send a message, and it'll, I think, reach people to their core and help them move with the spring in their step.
You mentioned perspective or point of view. That has become something very powerful, that when I am able to, I'm a very judgmental person. I know, shock and awe. And I get it that, it seems to be almost a default setting of mine that I
Right.
see something and I make a judgment call. But when I take the opportunity to take a half step backwards and I start looking at it, well, what could be another possible explanation? By being able to look at an issue from a different perspective, a different point of view, it helps me realize that, well, there might be a lot more to this story
Right.
than what I am seeing currently.
Right.
And so, I can see where having a way to start your day with this opportunity to hold judgment,
Right.
just because the light goes green and that person isn't flooring the car to get through, there might be a reason why that just because you don't see it doesn't mean that they're on their phone, or maybe they're on their phone because they're dealing with a tragedy that you are unaware of.
Yeah.
So, and again, I'm speaking just from personal experience. I'm not very good at it all the time, especially when I'm driving, as you well know.
Don't ever get in the car with Rod McCall.
But it is, sometimes taking a deep breath.
Right.
And again, I need to take my own advice on this more. But, being able to get your mind kind of off to a decent start in the morning before you leave the house, while you're
Right.
drinking that cup of coffee,
Right.
before you start yelling at the kids to hurry up. You're going to be late for school. You're going to miss the bus. Did you are you wearing the right clothes? Did you pack your lunch? Did you have your homework? All that,
Oh, yeah.
all that stuff that can distract you. Having an opportunity, my dad would always read the Bible. Not a lot, but he'd read, just open it up and read a little bit every day. And
Right.
I'd ask him why. And he basically said what you said. It helps me get my day off to a good start.
Right. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And we could get caught up, I can't tell you how many times I hit the snooze towards the end of last school year, like 7 different times. And then I'm frantically racing to get, the kids up or out and dressed and myself. Well, I wouldn't eat because I wouldn't have time. And and then I get to school and that's how the rest of the day went. I wasn't intentional with my day.
Yeah.
And being intentional is I'm going to get up early. I'm going to read the word. Or I'm going to read, wake up, wake up, wake up. And that's going to set the tone for the rest of it. That's going to help me in how I treat other people.
I have found that I have to, when I get to school early, and I'll get to school an hour and a half before the school day starts. Because when I don't, I find that, yes, I'm more, I don't want to say anxious.
Right.
And I'm more reactive rather than directive.
Right.
And I don't like being reactive.
Right.
I'm most of my life can be very chaotic, but when I get to school, when I get to work, I want it to be where I'm in control of it.
Right.
Where I can predict, what's going to happen. So, I like the idea. And this will be something that I'll have to get you to sign my copy.
I might do that for you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I know famous people charge, so hopefully you'll waive the fee for me so you don't charge me $20 to sign your book.
Lunch will be fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but no, I'm really excited about the launch of the book. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Again, you'll see it on Amazon June 25th. Pick up a copy. But I am excited just because I know that it has the potential to. I'll use the word transform.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a powerful piece because I've experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
That transformation. I've not just with me personally, but within my family dynamic, within my work environment.
Mm-hmm.
I think because of these messages have helped me become the thermostat. And it's something I share. And that sounds weird to some people maybe. Be the thermostat. Well, it's that little setting on your wall, right?
Mm-hmm.
It regulates the environment. It's one of the messages I talk about. It helps me be the thermostat during my day, not the thermometer. At home, at school, that helps me build better relationships. Right? Helps even with random people on while driving or at the store, right? I had to decide, again, I talk about this in my book, what side I'm going to live on. It's either the default side or the design side.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Yeah. And
right? And I hope you pick design because that default side, it's not all that fun. You fight against all the stuff that you unintentionally don't want because you never really figured out your why. And we talked about that in the last episode.
Well, you're more reactive to what happens when you're living by default.
Right.
And, having lived there before, you don't feel like you are in control of anything. And as a consequence, when I was there, I was very, very unhappy and miserable with my life. But when I started taking a more active role in designing what was going to happen,
right,
I felt a whole lot happier.
Right.
It doesn't mean I don't get upset or angry or feel frustration.
Right.
But I feel more happiness.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be ridiculous to think that, I'm perfect. I don't have issues or I don't experience difficulties or I don't get frustrated because that's far from the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But it's ways in which we address it, the way we handle it. And from what I'm hearing you say, the book helps provide tools, methods, ways
exactly
to take that whatever's happening, that frustration, and kind of help reset our mind.
Right. Yeah. You're developing, helping to develop your thought life, your mindset. And I think with the questions that, intentionally, answered, you can apply, and that's what helps to transform you.
Okay.
Right. You could just, you could pick up a book and read a paragraph and then, well, maybe this is just me, put it down, then I forgot. There's no application.
Okay.
And so I think with this, it helps you dive deep into this message and then deeper with the questions that really help you develop your thought life and be a mindful person. And that ultimately helps you create a life by design, which ultimately then helps you create that home sweet home, like this podcast, right?
Well, because shit's going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And some of it might be good and frequently some of it is bad.
Right.
But it's how you react to it, how you respond to it.
Oh, yeah.
And how you recover from it.
Right.
So wake up.
Wake up. Yeah. You just said something. I was listening.
But you forgot what I said.
No. Going back to the bad days, right? We're going to have struggles. We're going to have disappointments. We're going to experiencing crushing blows. But I keep telling myself this, and I have to tell myself this often, is don't let the bad days win.
Yeah.
Don't let the bad days win. And that's something I talk more about it in the book, but I have to tell myself that because I could easily let those bad days overcome.
Oh, yeah.
And then everything, the whole week, a whole month is ruined, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based off that one day.
Well, as you say that, I'm reminded of how school went this year.
Yeah.
And those bad days started becoming bad weeks. Mm. And those bad weeks became over a bad month.
Right.
And I was finding I don't like this.
Right.
I don't like feeling this way. And I don't like how I just don't like any of it. There was no aspect of that. And I was so ready to be done with the school year.
Right.
I was done with the kids. I was done with the administrators. I was done with my coworkers. I was done with me. And so it's been kind of nice to have, these several weeks off without school.
Right.
Because it's helped me realize, maybe some of my problems and some of my issues were, I don't know, me.
Right.
And how I saw things.
It's easy for us to get in our own way.
Yeah.
It's easy.
I do that very well.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why I like what we're doing here, because I feel like as we talk about these various things, some of it is I think I'm talking to myself going, hello, nuthead,
Right.
pull your head out of your butt and start taking your own advice.
That's something I want to do something here in the future. I write about this in my book about finding a mirror. And I think that's where a lot of our issues are.
Oh, I have said many times that the source of a great number of our problems personally and societally, is societally a word?
Sure.
Well, it is now.
It is
anyway,
now.
With ourselves and with how we see society, a lot of times can be focused on the person we see in the mirror every day.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. You're right. We could spend.
We could spend.
We'll
a
have
while
to
on
develop that
one.
into.
Yeah.
That might be a 3-parter.
I'll actually talk to you off air about my idea, but I think it's a really, really powerful. I don't know what you would concept. Yes, thank you. That a lot of people I think a lot of people are just afraid to look in the mirror.
Oh, I know. I am first thing in the morning, but after a shower, it's not so bad.
Yeah. But again, going back to that's where a lot of the problems lie.
Well,
is the person we see in the mirror.
Yeah, because we are 100% in control of how we respond to everything that happens to us.
Yeah. Something you said about attitudes, and I just kind of want to, as I remember something about from my book, we're talking about attitudes and how doctors and scientists have concluded that our mindset, our attitudes it's our most effective weapon for how we respond or how we recover from an injury or something, right? Even more so than our physical status or prognosis. Not that I'm a brain surgeon or even all that brilliant, when it comes to the complexity of how the mind works.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to dive into it.
No,
but I've done enough research to know that our mindset, our attitudes will dictate what we receive from the situation, whatever it be, fill in the blank, right?
Absolutely.
So you said that I wanted to bring that up, but that's something I talk about in the book, right? Our attitudes.
Yeah, it's a powerful tool, and I'm glad you bring that up. I'm looking forward to reading it, because there are so many times where I find that, again, I don't take my own advice,
right.
And when I do, things are so much better.
Yeah.
So that'll be a nice thing to have to read each morning to help me get my day started on a better track.
Right. Well, and I hope so, and I do. I hope it reaches. And I say this maybe jokingly, but I'm positive, about it reaching millions of lives.
Well, yeah.
And I'm willing to take. Well, I've already signed, so it's a done deal. But I was willing to take that risk. Because I open up and I share some of my story. I'm pretty vulnerable in the thing, and there's times where I thought, man, do I really want to say this? Because people are going to be reading. But I think back to the wake up calls that I've talked about. Maybe I go a little bit more in depth with the book, but I think it's through that vulnerability is that what can capture people's hearts, if you will.
Well,
and help to transform and propel people to a more abundant
when I wrote
life.
When I wrote my book, For the Love of Eric, that was I thought those exact same things.
Right.
And I felt that the more honest I could be, the more truthful I was, the more transparent I was, the more my message would be able to get through.
Right.
And that has been very successful. So I totally do believe that you will be as well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Again, June 25th.
It's available on
Amazon. But yeah, I hope you guys pick up a copy. Yes, Rod, I will sign a copy for you.
Okay,
I guess.
good.
I'm on this. It's that sandwich place. Can't think of it. Not Schlotsky's, because we just had that for lunch. Jimmy John's.
Oh yeah,
I'll take Jimmy John's for a signature.
Okay, very good.
We're not being paid for advertising yet, but shout out for Jimmy John's. They have a special, 2 for $6. Anyways,
They do?
no, I just made that up. But we could throw a plug in for anyone who wants to advertise on the podcast.
Yeah, well, when we get to about a couple 100,000 downloads, we can talk.
Okay.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Again, June 25th, Amazon. Wake up, wake up, wake up.
Until then, good night.
See ya.